collapsed on the floor, and she said that God would provide for the baby that was living inside of me. And she pleaded with me to not kill this baby. I ended up keeping that child, and I named him Evan. His name actually means God has given grace. God has shown favor. But I didn't find that out until many years later. I continued doing drugs. I had quit doing drugs for a certain amount of time after I had my son, but once again, I got back into the life, and I was living a double life. I was working as a school counselor during the day, trying to provide for my son, and I was drugging all night. And so I was driving down a road in Houston, Texas, after going to my dealer's house, and I got pulled over by the police. I was smoking weed in the car. I rolled the window down, and the smoke was coming out as the officer was asking for my insurance and my driver's license. And he pulls me out of the car and he says, "Ma'am, you're under arrest." And I'm like, "What for?" And so I belligerently got put in the back of the cop car, and it was the moment where I prayed what I believe is my first prayer. And I looked up with my hands in cuffs on my back, and I said, "If you're real, why are you doing this to me? I hate you." And so that moment I went to jail. I was out on bond. I went back to my job, and I was sitting in front of my computer screen where I was contemplating how to take my life. And the enemy will do that to you. He'll get you to the place where he starts convincing you that you don't matter and that you are worse off being alive than you are dead. And so I was going down this road when I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was a man at my job who said to me that he had a word from the Lord for me. And at that moment, it could have been anybody, Buddha, Muhammad. I didn't know anything about God. I just wanted someone to help me. And he invites me to a prayer meeting where I walk into this prayer meeting, and people are pacing the floor. They're praying in languages that I had never heard of. And everybody begins to lay hands on me. And this man, his name was Hilroy, he says to me, "This is a matter of life or death." And at that moment, I didn't know that it was a vision, but I had an open vision in my spirit of me dying in a car accident. And he says to me, "Would you like to receive Jesus into your life?" And I said, "Whoever you are, Jesus, come into my life and change my life." At that moment, I felt like a warm oil from the top of my head to the tips of my toes. I began to shake. And it was like the boulders that I had been carrying around for 20 plus years of my life all of a sudden just lifted. I truly came through the birth canal for the first time. I was seeing more light. The colors were more vibrant. The lights were brighter. I'd given my life to Jesus. And I wish I could tell you that I rode off into the sunset and everything was hunky-dory after that. But the reality is that I was facing a court case that was going to change the rest of my life and the life of my son. So I had been walking with the Lord for 3 months. I was fully delivered from drugs, and I was walking like a new woman, but I was facing going back to jail. So I show up to court that morning, and I hear the voice of the Lord speak to me while I'm sitting there waiting to be arraigned. And I tell my attorney that I need to talk to the DA. That voice was the voice of the Lord that I had never heard before. And I asked my attorney if that would be a possibility. He said, "This isn't the best idea for you to do this, but I've given you legal advice." So we walk outside of the courtroom. The DA looks at me and says, "So what's up?" And I said, "I just want to tell you the truth about what happened that night." He said, "Shoot. Look, I'm not the person that was in that car on September 2nd. That was the day that I got arrested. But God has changed my life. I gave my life to Jesus, and I'm a new woman. I'm a new person." He said, "Look, we all make some mistakes sometimes. Have a great day." My whole world came colliding that day, but I knew that I had done everything that I could do. We walk into the courtroom, and what felt like 15 hours was probably 15 minutes. My attorney walks up to me and holds up a yellow piece of paper that changed the rest of my life. And it said, "Order of dismissal." That piece of paper represented so many things to me in that moment. And what I did, I walked out of the courtroom and I began screaming and glorifying God for what he had done. And it was that moment where I realized that I had heard the message of the cross, But this was the first time where I understood the message of the cross and the blood that he shed for my life. He paid a price for us at the cross. And even though I should have gone to jail and should have paid the price, look, I did the crime, I should have done the time. But at that moment, God exonerated everything that I had done and let me walk like a free woman. And I heard the voice of the Lord once again in that moment. And he said to me, do you see that woman up there? Do you see that judge? I am above the judicial system of the United States, and I've been here your whole life. I've been watching over you your whole entire life, Cristina. And it was my woman at the well moment of go and sin no more. It was the moment where I realized that I was set free and free to live the life that he had paid for me to have. God gave me the opportunity to raise my son. God gave me the opportunity to walk free, a new woman, free from drugs, free from alcohol, free from addiction, free from everything that enslaved me. And I believe today that God wants to do that in your life. The Lord wants to give you a clean slate. He wants to renew the vision that he put inside of your heart many years ago for you, your children, and your loved ones. If God can take this drug-addicted, lost, goth teen girl, he can do the same for you and the ones that you love. So I want to encourage you with that today. There's so much more to this story, but God has written a story in your life that he fully intends to fulfill. There is a destiny, and the power of his might and the power of his blood has already set you free. So God bless you.